We have been rhapsodizing about the wild card weekend, but as every football fan knows it's the divisional weekend, which is the weekend of the year for watching football. And where better to watch it at the Arlington Hotel and Bar, our partners on Bachelor's Walk, just on O'Connell Bridge. A great place to settle in for the evening on Saturday or Sunday next week and watch those divisional round games and come back for the championship and indeed for the Super Bowl watch party a couple of weeks later. You'll be there welcomed with open arms by Ciaran and the team. And the food offering is spectacular there. We do love the Arlington Hotel and Bar, a great place to watch a game. Please do check it out. Ciaran, you were watching the game in the comfort of the press seats at Everbank Stadium at the weekend as the Bills came to town and justified their road favourites tag. It was hard won and it was a hard-earned victory in the end. This is another great game, back and forth. Jags left it all out there, just didn't quite have enough to complete the fourth quarter 2-minute drive that they needed to get the win. Interception turns out to be a bit of an anticlimax and ends the game on the spot. We were hoping maybe we'd see some fireworks from Trevor Lawrence. I know the faithful at Everbank Stadium certainly were hoping for that, but didn't quite turn out their way.
Huge event. I mean, geez, just the traffic getting there alone. I mean, it was like half of North Florida was going to this game. Huge atmosphere, great vibe around the place, and I had the Jags down. I thought this was going to be a nice little run for them in the playoffs, but they came up against Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen he was the difference. I mean, just being able to put that team on his back. I spoke last week about the kind of lack of weapons he has on offense, other than Knox and Kincaid, and then you're bringing people in like Brandon Cooks. I mean, where's he been? I mean, Gabe Davis, the former Jag that went back to Buffalo. I mean, I don't want to say he's getting guys off the street, but he's not exactly got a stellar roster to kind of help him out. But he made it happen. I mean, it's Josh Allen. He put the team on his back and he just did what he does. He's now this is 6 playoff games. He's got 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in his last 6 playoff games. So I mean, the stats are there. I think this was his 14th playoff game. And he just keeps rolling. 31 total TDs in those games too. For the Jags, I mean, they didn't do a huge amount wrong. I mean, they ran the ball to an extent. I would have liked them to have run the ball a little bit more. I always say when ETN is 100, I mean, he didn't have 100 rushing yards. He had 116 total yards. And between him and Tootin, I thought that was going to be enough. But I feel like the Jags kind of got away from the run a little bit. It's interesting that Cook actually had more carries than Tootin and ETN combined, which I found a little strange. But it feels like that Trevor was kind of forcing it a lot. I was saying in the chat that there was at least 4 to 5 throws that could have been picked off and could have been disastrous. So I think he was skirting a little bit. He was getting away from chill confidence. I don't want to say check down, but 7-8 yard throws, and he was getting a little bit more adventurous, which. That Bills pass defense is pretty damn good. And I think he was flirting with danger a little bit too much yesterday. And combined with that, with getting away from the run a little bit, I thought the Jags were that was my only kind of gripe with it. But, great game. Fourth quarter lead changes are always great in the playoffs. Phenomenal atmosphere. It was great.
There were 4 fourth quarter lead changes in that game. That's a playoff record. And actually, I heard on the NFL Daily podcast earlier today a great stat which really made me smile. There were 12 fourth quarter lead changes on wildcard weekend. That's the highest number that there have ever been in any entire playoffs. It happened on the first weekend. If there's one fourth quarter lead change for the rest of the playoffs, it's a record. And it just stunning, and to your point earlier, Shane, like really exciting games. Ciaran, I thought what I saw from Jacksonville, to your point, they leave with great credit. They're obviously going to be devastated. You host a home playoff game after a drought and you want it to go well and you want to win and be advanced to the next round. I see a recipe for sustainable success. Like I wouldn't be going into this offseason downcast if I was in Duval. I see complementary football being played. Defensively, I thought Drayvon Walker looked for the first time like a blue chip college prospect. Looked like a number 1 overall pick. There's balance there. There's playmakers on in every key position, and you don't need an awful lot to imagine. You can squint your eyes and see this team going on a deep playoff run. They don't need to change an awful lot. They're in really good territory right now.
Oh, absolutely, and the coaching staff is perfectly positioned to keep moving forward with this. I do think they got to bulk up a little bit in the wide receiver core. I mean, Parker Washington, as good as he was, this guy's really come alive this year. This was a kick returner last year, kind of kind of relegated to preseason games and kind of kick returns. So he's definitely taken that mantle. They might need a little upgrade at tight end. I think Strange was good, but I think he was kind of overachieving this year. But you're right. I mean, they're all primed. I mean, the coaches were great. I mean, Campanelli has done a phenomenal job. And just the kind of advancement of Trevor Lawrence in this season right after that bye week. I mean, a different player. I did see him kind of leaning back towards some of his, like I said earlier, some of his old habits. I think he was a little bit reckless with the football. But the only real kind of argument I can give against the Jags is they threw the ball too much. And obviously, when you throw the ball too much, you give them the ball right back. And I think that was a problem. They were giving the ball back too much to Josh Allen, just letting him dictate terms out there. I mean, that throw to Cooks towards the end was just phenomenal. I mean, he's getting battered and bruised. He just kind of, I was in the locker room afterwards, and he was just sat there with his legs just, up in the air and just almost like he'd gone through a battle. Joey Bosa came over and gave him a big hug, and you could tell they were beat up to hell. You could see it in the body, just a huge kind of. I mean, that Jags defense was ferocious, like you said. Walker and Hines Allen. Devin Lloyd.
They made Josh Allen pay for every single yard. Like they left the ball out there. Like he got a lick on him every time he was releasing that ball. They couldn't. No more could they do. And what I was particularly impressed with the Jags defense was after what looked like backbreaking turnovers, they just dug their heels in. Like they didn't let the Bills capitalize on those short fields and those turnover momentum swings. That's a really difficult thing to do. Your defense come fired up off the bench and just say, no, we're going to get it back.
Yeah, I mean, Everbank in the last 2 months is where, running games go to die. I mean, James Cook only had 46 on the ground. Allen, I think he had 33 rushing yards too. I mean, that's typically what happens to teams when they go to Jacksonville. The run game just kind of comes to a halt. And that front four and that linebacker crew, I mean, Devin Lloyd was everywhere yesterday. But I mean, that's really the only real kind of knock I can give on the Jags is throwing the ball too much and giving the ball back to Allen. I think they could have run it a lot more. I think they got away from the run towards the end, and that could have helped them. But, I mean, who knows? The bottom line is they left it all out there. If Little had made that kick right at halftime, it could have been a different conversation. But when you go up against Josh Allen, you got to play flawless football. You can't give him any opportunity to come into it. And unfortunately, pushing towards the end, Lawrence just got a little reckless and was picked off by Cole Bishop, and that was ball game. But they'll be back next year. I mean, what's going to be great is, I mean, I don't want to say I'm rooting for the Texans tonight, but I think a strong Texans team is what's needed in that South Division too, because it's going to be a while before Tennessee is really any good, and hopefully the Colts can kind of regroup too. But I can see the Texans and Jags just, going at it for the next couple of years, which would be a great spectacle for everybody, me as well. So, great credit to the Jags. They left it all out there, and, they'll be back next year.
Shane, in terms of the quarterback battle, Ciaran's touched on it already and called out some really key points. Very little difference between, and it's not like Trevor Lawrence goes out there having lost the game for the Jags. Let's not make that mistake. There's not an awful lot more he could have done than what he did. But the difference for me is Josh Allen has long since learned, and we're seeing the version of Josh Allen now that knows when to keep the glasses on and be Clark Kent, and knows when to be Superman, and he knows he doesn't need to play the alter ego the whole way through the game. He knows. The control with which he releases it when he needs to, and with between him and the coaching staff, what they've created here is it's just a perfect balance for me. I was looking at the passing chart that they flashed up on the screen in the first half when they were finding the yards hard to come by, but he was just taking what the defense gave him, just keeping the chains moving. 2-3 yard gains, just picking out those receivers. Getting forward momentum. There was nothing explosive to be had because there was nothing explosive there. We say that the Jacksonville pass rush was in his face all day long, and each of those yards was coming at a cost. But when he needed to, he could dip into his bag of tricks. I mean, the throw that Ciaran referenced earlier to the one you talked about earlier. Which receiver did that go to? Help me out.
I'm mute here to Brandon Cooks down the left-hand line.
Cooks, yeah, sorry.
Yes, yeah. I had that queued up in my notes as the real sort of like clutch moment there. So.
That's a lead, and that's a throw that only he and maybe 2 or 3 other quarterbacks, not named Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow, can make. He's got it all, and this was the perfect stage for him to play on.
What was interesting is the sort of, the talk about in golf, like when you're in Augusta on the Sunday, are you selecting the right shots? And that's been the big problem, I think, with the Bills in terms of their sort of play selection and shot selection. Like, are they running it too hard? Are they passing it too deep too often? Their shot selection seemed a lot better yesterday. That pass there came at the right moment at the right time. Getting just enough pressure was coming up against Josh Allen, where the Jags are sort of lulled into a false sense of security. He found his man and hit him down the line. And the run plays as well. I mean, we talked about in the first half how he sort of ran into a brick wall of the Jacksonville defense, put himself under a lot of physical strain, but to get a rushing touchdown. And then later on in the second half, get probably the most successful pushes of the tush going, considering that the Bills are one of the teams that voted against the tush push. But it nearly got them over the line, managed to get them 10 yards on a fourth down. And again, it's one of those very, very key moments in a battle.
Speaking of that, Shane, because you've queued it up nicely here. Bills went out last season because they couldn't get a yard when they needed a yard, and because they became predictable, and they ran exactly the way the Kansas City Chiefs expected them to run, and the Chiefs were waiting for them. And again, it didn't go that way because they get the stop and they get the turnover on the Jags' would-be game-winning drive. But they had the ability to burn more clock than they did at the goal line. And, we saw the Patriots do this, where they refused to score just so they could eat up a little bit more on the clock. And I know you can go both ways on this one. I've heard people say, you got to score when you have the opportunity to score, because the most important thing is to actually put the ball in the end zone. You can't get too clever about it. But sorry, if you can't get the ball in from a yard, you're not going to win any ball games anyway. You left the Jags and Trevor Lawrence with a timeout and a minute to come back the other way. You're dicing with death a little bit here. There were other ways they could have approached that situation.
Yeah, but I think the Jags pretty much let them walk in at that point anyway. I mean, that's sort of the sense of how the Jags are managing that. I said, listen, you just give us the ball back and let us take it. And look, eventually you can get to a point as a team where you can sort of metagame that to a certain extent, because you have been there and you have done it. With the Bills, I think it's a case of, listen, just take the points now, because I don't know whether Sean McDermott, again, hasn't won a playoff game on the road with Josh Allen. We'll be looking at that and saying, listen, if we try to go to run on the first down and let the ball, let the ball fumble at the 1 yard line, like what happened to the Ravens against the Bengals a couple of years ago, let it run back against him, it will forever be a curse against his and their name. So I can understand why they just went for it and trust the defense to do the job, which they have proven they can do, and they ended up getting the interception. History will call them right, because they managed to get the right play at the right time. And I'm not knocking Trevor Lawrence in that particular interception. I think that was genuinely a good defensive play. My only worry about the Bills, though, is just that, we're talking about the physicality there. I mean, there's a great video that Ciaran got of Sean McDermott yesterday, talk about how much of a warrior Josh Allen is. They're talking about today, Gabe Davis is a torn ACL. I know the Bills are expecting Curtis Samuel to come back into that setup, but they're saying that Josh Allen is quote unquote sore. I imagine he is. Like he had to deal with a lot of physical pain. It was a very, very physical game. And look, football is a physical game anyway. But considering that your X factor is very much the quarterback, the running back is very good, but he's not Christian McCaffrey. And the wide receivers, we talk about how well Josh Allen does with his core wide receivers, who are good, not great. In the same way that Patrick Mahomes as won Super Bowls with wide receivers of that quality. I just hope that by the time they go into Denver next week, which is going to be a tremendously physical game, as it always is with Denver on a week's rest, no less, what effect that will have. But in terms of just the key fine margins, I mean, it's really is the small things. It's getting the 2 4th down conversions when the Jazz couldn't get theirs. It's the defense. It's trusting your defense with a minute to go, even though there's been a lot of changes in the fourth quarter. And it's that play on the left of Brandon Cooks that really was clutch. Tony Romo did a very good job of breaking down why that was such a great play for him to spot out. You could barely even see the receiver on the left hand side and picked him out with the with the bullet, which could have been laser guided. So yeah, I think this was a real sort of show a game for the Josh Allen to make sure that you can prove to the world that you're Super Bowl ready. And they look about as Super Bowl ready as they have been.
Ciaran, our penultimate game of our roundup was won by a team that comes from a city that starts with a C, ends with an O, and has a hit gag in the middle. We're talking about the Bears.
Wow, what a game. Jeez, where do you start with this one? I mean, this, of all the great games we had over the weekend, this is probably the standout. Just the theater, the snow before the game, which unfortunately stopped by the time kickoff.
I'm going to make a public service announcement here. Please, City of Chicago, Chicago Bears, do not build a stadium with a roof on it. I know you want Super Bowls and you want Final Fours. We want snow games. We want games that are affected by the weather in January. You want a home field advantage. It's romantic. It's beautiful. It's just so evocative.
Yeah, I mean, it was theater. It was scene. Whatever phrase you want to put on it. I mean, we just got off the end of the Panthers game, which was we'll get to in a minute. But I mean, Saturday night, great crowd. Everyone's raucous. A huge rivalry. Only the third time they've met in the postseason. Just storylines, everywhere. And then as soon as the game is kicked off, the crowd is just out of it because the Packers are just rolling and they're running up and down the field. And there's the pan of the stadium and pan of the crowd, and there's just disbelief, despondency, and just people just almost thinking about let's bail at halftime. But what a game! I mean, geez, from being up at 21-3. I mean, where do you start with this? There's so many storylines. What I do want to bring up. And I brought this up in the chat. If you remember when the camera was panning around to Jordan Love, and I can't remember the wide receiver he was standing beside, but they were joking, they were laughing, they were almost high-fiving. And I was like, I put in the chat, I said, Chicago's winning this because I've been watching football for so long that anytime that you see a team, and I've seen it in college a lot, but in college you kind of give them a pass because the kids and they're not as mature. But these guys definitely, I know this, the Chicago scheme different. They switch things up in the second half, but when you see something like that, that's a real kind of warning sign for me because that's when real coaching has to kick in. There should have been a coach saying, hey, this is not over. This is not even close to over. You all know that the Bears have come back 6 times in the season. I don't know what anyone's doing here. There's a whole lot of games still to go. I thought there was too much of a relaxation on the Packers end. I thought, I think they just thought they were going to coast through to the second half. And obviously we saw what happened in the second half, but notwithstanding the Bears switching everything up and just, stonewalling the Packers in the second half. The Pack couldn't get anything going at the start of the second half, and the Bears just slowly crept into it. A field goal to make it 21-6. Yeah, the crowd are like, it's a field goal, but I mean, it's just phenomenal. And, I'll talk about Williams too, but just that the coaching, the surrounding cast, from Loveland, Burden, players that have contributed during the year, but the big guy stepped up and skeptical. I wouldn't say I've been skeptical about Williams. I think I've really just been waiting for him to show the potential he's been shown for so long from college to the pros. And I mean, what a gala, what an event he had on Saturday night. He hit all the marks. He got all the numbers in the lottery. I mean, he just played his butt off, and what a performance. I mean, capped off by that throw to Adunze. I put it in Twitter. I put it on. I said, you'll never see a better throw this season or any other season. Just the poise, just the composure.
I can't remember a throw that good. I can remember one that I would compare. There was a Lamar Jackson one to the Bengals during one of their 2 shootouts last season, where he escapes about 3 tackles, scrambles to his right, and throws back against the grain. On a jump pass to the end zone, but. This one, 4th and 8 for all the marbles, because that's game right there. If it falls incomplete and they turn the ball over on downs, or worse still, it gets picked off because there's 4 Packers defenders in the vicinity. The degree of difficulty there, like a lot of quarterbacks, they're not even going to attempt that throw because it's just not in their athletic or arm strength wheelhouse. It's just not possible. It's crazy what he can do, and he can madden you sometimes because he can do the simple things wrong. I've been saying it all season. Why is it that he can't clean up? But the stuff that he does when he does it well is just jaw dropping. And yeah, to your point, you're like, the question we ask about any quarterback going into the playoffs is this a quarterback that you win with or that you win because of? And we've answered that question now.
Yeah, and I mean, somebody had answered on Twitter, what a throw, and I said the only one that came to mind that I could equate it to was Eli to Mario Manningham in the 2012 Super Bowl, the Super Bowl 46. Just clutch, had to happen, gotta have it, no other option. And I mean, he just put the team on his back. You know, we talk about, you know, quarterbacks doing that, but it was all Williams in that second half, just bringing everybody else into the fold. You know, Monangai didn't have a huge game. I mean, he had 37 yards on the ground. Loveland had a real nice game, helped him out a lot. DJ Moore chipped in as well. But, you know, between Adunze, the supporting cast just, I mean, you got to love the Chicago team. I mean, I know the Packers kind of, I don't want to say they imploded, but, you know, the first 4 possessions of the second half produced a total of 1 first down. I mean, that's where the game changed. And you could see the vibe changing. And it's when the crowd started getting into it more, and then they started to believe, and then the touchdown happens, and the throw to Adunze, and then just how it finished. Just a phenomenal game. Just cinema, just scene. I mean, what else can you say about it? A phenomenal game.
Shane, we were sending around the WhatsApp group, or Brian sent around the WhatsApp group, this brilliant edit of Lose Yourself, the Eminem song that I know is a go-to hype track for a lot of people. And sometimes it's a go-to track from people when things are not going well. It's one of those great pick you up, you know, battle against adversity type. You know, and we missed the lines from the playoffs this year. Obviously, how iconic was it to see Eminem at Ford Field when the Lions won their first playoff game two years ago in an age. But we were sharing, or Brian had shared the version where there's like 331 different movies and somebody's edited together the lyrics. So all of the lines come from movies. It's brilliant. It's worth, check it out on YouTube after you check out our own back catalogue. But the line that hit me at halftime, because this earworm is still in my head, was snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. There goes gravity. It looked like the Bears had fallen to earth. And, you know, at halftime, I'm thinking, I might actually genuinely switch this off. Like, I could see the Bears lose a playoff game and it's still a good season, but I can't watch my team get opened up like this, just taken apart by their deadliest rivals in prime time and just choke in the biggest game that they've played in years when there's been so much hope. And it just reminds you, the most dangerous weapon you can have in the playoffs isn't Matthew Stafford, it isn't Christian McCaffrey, it isn't Nick Bonito, and it isn't Jackson Smith-Njigba. It's not a genius head coach, it's not an offensive mastermind or a defensive stalwart. It's belief.
And that's the thing. I mean, like, it's amazing the difference in Chicago, and we watched so many games in the years past where they've had a lead and we're like, we're going to sit back and wait for them to find a way to make a mess of this. And it's the exact opposite that's happening here. You're watching back, and I didn't watch this live, but I watched this blind on the Sunday morning, and I was sitting back, and for most of the game I was like, Chicago have no right to be in this match. They can't, like, they're going for on 4th down, not getting it done. Caleb Williams isn't connecting with his guys. They're letting too much space in the wide receiver room. But you're still sitting back in your chair and you're knowing this game isn't done yet. And it's funny, I mean, I don't want to take the magic out of what has happened. I'm struggling to figure out whether it is, as you've said earlier, Conor, a feature, not a bug of what the Chicago team is, or whether it's just an unsustainable way of playing.
Well, I'll jump in right there. Sorry, but it is completely unsustainable. And I'd be the first one to acknowledge it. They can't keep living this way, and they can't keep doing it. And it will come to an end sooner rather than later if they keep playing this poorly on defense. But the one thing that gives me hope and gives me belief is when I check the stats just to confirm what I'd seen here, 22 teams in the NFL during the regular season averaged fewer than 25 points per game in the regular season, per game. It's not easy to score points in the NFL. It is an offense-focused league, but, you know, the defenses are so tight and the battle is so intense. It's not easy to score 25-plus points in the league. If you're doing that, you're going to win more games than you lose. Scoring 25 points at a quarter, there aren't many offenses in the NFL who can do that on their best day. The Bears can't do it. Like, they only need a second to score, because when it clicks, it's insane. The combination between Ben Johnson's play calling, Caleb Williams' otherworldly ability, and the playmakers that he has around him, and that offensive line means that they are, in their moment, the most dangerous team in football. I don't think any team wants to go to Soldier Field and play a team that can play for 60 minutes, that's never out of the fight, and can just swing punches in bunches like that. Like, it's 1, 2, 3 scores. Yeah, we think we can get it if we need it. That's insane.
It is. Insanity is the word I was going to say. And look, every team puts out these videos of post-game locker room. Here's what's happening, right? And a lot of it's not even worth watching. And some of you even wonder whether it's put on or it's Fugazi team spirit. You just none of that with Ben Johnson, what we saw from inside. I mean, what Colson Loveland was saying after the game, what Caleb Williams, I think, was saying in terms of the respect he has for teammates. I think the questions about whether he really wants to be in Chicago that was in the start of the season are pretty much gone now. And there's Ben Johnson himself. Like, what an absolute culture guy and genius roll into one that you have as a head coach. And look, you're right. No one's going to want to go to Chicago. The LA Rams haven't played a game this year in under 45 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 7 degrees Celsius to you. 4 degrees is when your car starts freezing over. I think it's about to be minus 11 by the time we get to Sunday night. Celsius, that is, in Soldier Field in the Windy City. So add that in plus the sheer explosive nature and the never say die attitude, which has worked so well. That's 7 comebacks now in the last 2 minutes that the Bears have pulled off, and they could have pulled off maybe 3 or 4 more. That's talent, that's belief, and that's and again, look, culture is become a theme of this. That's just the nature of the new identity which they have. There's one final thing I will say though, right? One key difference between the Packers and the Bears here. The Packers only let up 2 penalties and they only gave up 5 yards of penalties. Sorry, the Bears only let up 2 penalties and gave up 5 yards of penalties. The Packers gave up over 60 yards of penalties and then got called 7 times. It's stupid things like that, which when one team aren't doing them, they're giving themselves a chance to be in the game. They're not beating themselves up. They're not kicking themselves, even at moments when they are 21-3 down. And look, you need to stay clean. You need to stay belief. You need to stay explosive, and that's all the Bears all have in spades.
Shane, I want to talk Rams Panthers. Obviously, you mentioned the Rams, who the Bears will play in the divisional round next week. They overcame a really tough test from the Panthers, and it was the early game. They were 10.5-point favorites on the road. Nobody, including on this show, was really expecting that much from Carolina. And I want to start with you, and we have to hold our hands up a little bit here because we dunked on Bryce Young a couple of short weeks ago and how he wasn't the guy and how he wasn't up to it and how Carolina might move past him if they really wanted to thrive under Dave Canales' leadership with all the other nice pieces that are coming together. And that might still be the case, but he certainly did not let them down in a massive spot in the biggest game he's ever played in his career. He gave it everything he had. They gave it everything they had, and they gave us a great game to start wildcard weekend.
Remember when I used to watch high school football when I was in Boston, and there's always a coach on the side that said, "You got hot, kid. You got hot, kid." And whenever you see somebody play, even in a moment we're not fully expecting them to bring the juice, they come with heart, and that's what we saw not only from Bryce Young but from the Panthers at large. I mean, I remember watching the first half of this game. You're just waiting for the moment for the Rams to take control. And we were saying earlier is the fact that, look, the last time that these two teams played, the Panthers put up 31 points and they won the game. And I said, look, there's no chance of putting up 31 points here. And that's exactly what they managed to do. I don't know whether this was a healthy matchup that works in their favor. There's always teams who are, I guess, bogey teams or teams that you seem to work well against. And I'm not saying that to try and take away from the performance here. That might have helped in this equation. But just in terms of the how clean I thought that the Panthers played on offense. I mean, Bryce Young was able to hit players outside the numbers a couple of times, which again was something we were criticizing. We were in the studio a couple of weeks, Conor, getting over 264 yards.
And we don't want to take credit for that, but it is noticeable how he improved that aspect of his game when we called it out.
I think he took us. Did he take a screenshot of us to put it up on the dressing room walls? It's
the bulletin board material, yeah. Irish NFL Show now providing bulletin board material for NFL teams. It's
never know
over here.
You never know. I mean, if Cam Newton is commenting on posts I'm putting up, you never know what inspiration people are getting. But look, we'll talk about the Rams later on in the week when we preview their match and I guess their defensive frailties. But in terms of putting a bow on the Panther seasons, look, like, how many different parts are they away from being a more solid contender? We talk about the fact, look, they're 8-9, they're the most winnable division. Their season kind of ended in a bit of a whimper in the way that it shouldn't have done. What world are we in where Bryce Young can be consistently the person he was against the Rams? Because we've seen that version of him come alive. I know people were saying, look, like college Bryce and NFL Bryce having two different people. I've been talking about the fact that he physically just doesn't have the similar kind of traits that you see from a quarterback. But I don't know. I think with the right offensive line, and maybe they're definitely going to give him another year to try and, I guess, get up to that level. but the consistency is going to be key, and we'll talk about that next year. But yeah, I was certainly impressed by him, and for Jalen Coker as well for having a pretty, getting a lot of targets. He ended up being the top guy, getting over 100 yards through the air and a touchdown. Looking like they really put it up to them and real offensive weapons here. Again, nobody was expecting anything from this Carolina team. I don't know whether they would come into this sort of playing on house money or whether just the noise inside Carolina is very different to the way we all looked at this. But they definitely showed themselves up to be a team worthy of the playoffs, as many people were questioning whether they were in the first place, and they put up a very good game on Saturday.
Ciaran, they asked the question and the Rams answered the question. It's the Rams that won this game. Let's not forget that. And Ciaran O'Donovan mentioned it when we were doing the instant reaction on Sunday morning. That quote from Davante Adams revealing what Matthew Stafford had said to him and to the other players in the huddle before they went down the field and won the game with a walk-off score. Let's go snatch their hearts out. That's cold.
Yeah, you got to be cold. And that's stuff you learn after playing 17 seasons in the NFL. I mean, he struggled for so long in Detroit. He's hungry for this. He really is. And, like you said, Adams saw in his eyes, and he got the other players, I mean, that's some cold-blooded stuff right there. But you have to be that in the playoffs. I mean, I don't want to say that the Rams kind of kept the Panthers in it a little bit, but they did have, the Rams had nine penalties for 83 yards, and there were some key penalties where they just gave the ball back or they gave the Panthers an extra first down. So that's something that they really got to clean up. And you could see how frustrated McVay was on the sideline. I mean, they can't do that going forward. They really can't because, I mean, this game to all intent, if Puka catches that ball towards the end of the second quarter, I mean, this could have turned out a lot different than it did. I think the Rams struggled a little bit, and when it got a little bit wet, but it's an alien thing from SoFi. But I think, the Rams really got to clean up what kind of kept them stumbling in it. I don't want to say it almost reverted back to the game in Week 13 where the Panthers won, but it got dangerously close to that. I will credit Young to an extent. I know I've bashed him a lot now. I continue to. I just don't think that Canales thinks that he's the man to lead this team. I think they're definitely going to pick up his option. I think it's his 5th-year option they're going to pick up. They may end up franchise tagging him for a minute, but I just think that Canales is looking around and saying, you know what, we're very close. I think we need a little bit more on from the quarterback. I mean, he went 21 for 40, not a hugely impressive kind of stat line there. I know he had a touchdown, and he got Coker involved and Leggett, but he was helped out by the run game. I mean, Hubbard had 2 touchdowns, 46 yards on the ground. I don't know what happened to Rico Dowdle. He had 5 carries for 9 yards. That's something that was a head scratcher. But for me, the Rams, the story is just how Stafford was able to bring on that DNA from playing so long, and that throw to Parkinson. I mean, I think that's their 17th tight end that they've used this year. I mean, I think we talk about 12, 13 personnel. It looked like they were doing 16 personnel out there. So many players with the number 80, starting with the number 80. It was just you always thought that the Rams were going to pull it out, and I think I will give credit to the Panthers. They punched above their weight. They kept it competitive. I didn't think it was going to be competitive at all. I was actually, looking at the TV guy to see what else was on because I thought this game was a goner. I will give Young some credit for bringing them back into it. I just don't think that Canales thinks that he's the guy going forward. But Rams just pulled on that DNA, and like I said, that throw to Parkinson was the dagger at the end, and probably I think the Panthers exhausted everything they had. It was a justified result in the end, and the Rams, like I said, they're gonna lick their wounds and get back to the drawing board and figure some things out because Puka was not he was at it, but he wasn't at it to the extent that some of those catches. I know he had 111 yards and a touchdown, but I think he could have had a bigger output. But saying that, a win is a win, and you hear players talk about there's no style points in the postseason. There certainly wasn't in this game. It was gritty. It was a grind for the entire game. Panthers did their bit. They did their part, but Rams were the worthy winners in the end.
Yeah, Panthers definitely went out on their shields, but it is the Rams who survive and advance, as do we. We'll be back with the AV Club. We'll have our Thursday picks and preview of the divisional round game, mouth-watering prospects that they are, including that Rams-Bears game. We await the winner of Texans-Steelers tonight. Check back our instant reaction tomorrow to that game, and we'll be at you very soon on the Irish NFL Show.